and welcome to the Party Center Speaks podcast. This is the podcast for family entertainment center and event venue owners, operators, managers, and staffers looking to grow their business. Want to learn more about how you can increase party bookings, improve facility operations, and other topics? This is the podcast for you. My name is Laura Canellas, and I'm the marketing manager here at Party Center Software. In this episode, we're going to share audio from our webinar on Chargebacks. We hope you enjoy this presentation.
We're going to talk about tips on how to prevent, avoid, and fight chargebacks at your facility. And we're going to give you some insights on our experience with chargebacks as we go through this. But I want to start by just saying thank you. We are so grateful for you. I know there are many places that you could be today and at this moment in time, and you've chosen to be here today. Thank you for joining us. Really, really appreciate it. And we hope that this webinar provides some insights and value to you as you're running your facility. If this is your first time joining a PCS webinar, welcome. We are Party Center Software, and we are powered by our payment processing system, Party Center Pay, which we will be talking a little bit more about in today's webinar as well. What do? We turn the frustrations of manual processes into a phenomenal guest experience. That is our goal. Our software enables our customers to offer online party booking to their guests, digital waivers, and add a new revenue stream with an online store, making purchasing very easy using our point of sale system. It'll help you manage your facility. And we also have some other great pieces that we're rolling out right now. You may have seen in some of our emails that we are now offering websites. So we offer web design services, and soon we will also offer marketing automation tools. So stay tuned. If you're a PCS customer, talk to your CSM and they can get you all hooked up, or talk to our lovely sales consultants here, Courtney and Megan, who I'll introduce in a moment. Of course, our expertise is in the family entertainment center or FEC industry. We love working with facilities like arcades, trampoline parks, bowling alleys, mini golf, soft play, inflatables, all of it. We enjoy fun, and we love that you guys have fun and your customers are having a great time. But we're so much more than just software. We are also business builders. Our team here is incredible. I speak for the many, many business builders that are on our team here who come from the FEC industry and other industries, consulting industries, where we are focused on building businesses. And that is our goal, is to help you build your business. So whether you're a PCS customer or not, we're here to help you build your business stronger and better, especially with this conversation about chargebacks. And of course, our mission is to provide helpful, timely resources to you as well, to the FEC and event community. We want to help you, like I said, grow your business and improve your bottom line, hire and train great staff members, so much more. And of course, as you may already know, we have a robust resource center on our website. Every quarter, we're releasing ebooks, guides. We have webinars like this one. And all of these webinars are also available on demand. Be sure to join I believe I have a slide on this coming up here, our academy. We have a training academy called the PCS Academy. It is completely free. So if you have not signed up for this, take advantage of it. If you have signed up for it, make sure you get your staff in here too. We have a business growth portal where you'll have access to all of our resources in one place. So you don't have to fill out a bunch of forms to download each of our resources. One sign up, you have access to it all, not to mention all of our webinars as well. So be sure to get into the academy. Of course, we want to make this easy for you. So here's a sign up link. Grab your phone, hit photos, and take a little screenshot of that QR code to get directly to that sign up link if you're not already a part of the academy. Give you 1 second. All right. Now I'd like to take a moment to introduce to you my amazing team here at PCS. Please say hello to Megan and Courtney. They are success consultants, and they provide business consulting on how to plan for revenue growth. They are experts in this area. They know the PCS software system like the back of their hand. They have helped hundreds of business owners discover success. So please be sure to connect with them if you haven't already. Next, we have our incredible customer success team. We have Eileen and Danielle. They are amazing. They're obsessed with customer success. If you are a customer, you've probably already experienced this. And they check in regularly with customers to ensure that they have everything that they need. They share resources, provide software assistance. They've probably talked to you if you have ever experienced a chargeback. You've probably talked to them about that as well. They're here for marketing and social media advice and really anything that you need assistance with. And then, of course, if we haven't met yet, hi, my name is Rebecca. Toomey, I might as well say that so you know how to pronounce it. Toomey, like the number 2. I am the Director of Sales, Marketing, and Customer Success here at Party Center Software. And this is my incredible marketing team. We have Laura and Araceli. You probably got emails from them for this webinar. They are fantastic and they make the magic happen here. I can't do anything without them. Now we have an intro slide here. Unfortunately, Miss Eileen is not feeling so hot today. She's not feeling well. She's under the weather. So I will try my best to not ruin this all by myself. But I will be walking you through this conversation about chargebacks. Again, I mentioned it before, but it's not the most exciting topic. It's not necessarily exciting or joyful or a joyous thing to really focus on. It can be really stressful and frustrating. It costs you time, it costs you money, but I'm here and my team is here to be real with you today about the state of chargebacks, what we've seen, what we've experienced, what has changed over the last couple of years, and also how you can prevent and fight chargebacks inside of your facility. We work with chargebacks firsthand, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. For context, I'm speaking from our perspective and experience with PC Pay. I mentioned earlier, we're powered by Party Center Pay. It is our payment processing system, but it is a huge payment processing system that is powered by our parent company, Fullsteam. Party Center Software is part of the Fullsteam family, which includes 50, and we're growing every single day, new companies coming on board. They are all founder-led software companies. This means that we have a powerful payments department, and that includes a dedicated chargeback team whose literal entire job is dedicated to fighting chargebacks for our customers. That is all they do, that team. They collect the evidence, they submit it to the issuing credit card company, they keep our customers in the loop with the process. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I wanted to preface it so you guys understand just how close we are to this topic as we talk about it. Of course, if you have any questions along the way, throw them in that Q&A. We learned that the chat isn't working too well today, so please throw anything in the Q&A. If it is where I am in the conversation, I will stop. If not, we'll also have some time at the end to go through some of these questions. Some of your questions may get answered as we go through the presentation. So here's what we're going to be sharing today. We are going to be focusing specifically on some party related type of chargebacks. We do see point of sale chargebacks from time to time. Those tend to be a lower number, a lower amount, say around $25 or so or less. And oftentimes there is not a choice to fight those chargebacks because it's such a low, number amount, a low dollar amount. So we want to focus on some of these bigger chargebacks, but we'll speak in the context of parties, and I may address point of sale just a little bit as well. So we're going to talk about chargebacks in the industry today. What does that look like? How has it changed? Give you guys a little bit of chargebacks 101, how to prevent chargebacks, how to fight them, and then we'll open up that Q&A. All right, so let's get into it. Chargebacks in the industry. This is a huge issue right now, huge. And it is not just in our industry for family entertainment. You'll remember I mentioned that we are a part of a company that includes 50 other software companies. We are the only one that's doing exactly what we are doing. The others obviously have software and are similar, but they're in many, many different industries. and all of them are seeing some level of chargebacks within their customers. Just like retail is one of the biggest places where you're going to find chargeback issues. We have noticed a difference post-COVID. It appears to be part of it. The world has become a different place in many ways. People are less willing to put up with things post-COVID. It's been very interesting from a social perspective. I'm sure you guys have noticed this within your facilities, how people have changed and become much less patient and a little bit more demanding, less understanding of the climate and what is going on around them. And so because customers are more demanding and less patient, we have to be wise as we go into these situations. And by we, I mean all of us, Party Center software included, as a business owner, as a trainer of your staff, from every perspective, we have to look at this with the lens of our current climate in mind. So I'm going to start with some quick tips just to kind of drive this point home a little bit. Tips on what you can do. Communication is key, just like it is key in any relationship, be it with your spouse or with a partner or a friend, a sibling, someone at work. Communication is the most important part of preventing chargebacks in the first place and trying to make sure that things don't escalate further. Communicating with your customers in the facility is more important than ever in the history of time. Talking with customers about their issues, observing their body language, and just how to address things head on is going to be key at this point. Now, I know it's difficult because you have a lot of different staff members that are going to interface with customers. You may not be in the facility every moment over every conversation. So it's very important to train your managers and your party hosts and staff members on how to look for problems, how to assess body language, tone, how to see when someone's upset. You know, when a mom of a birthday party is scowling and looking around and not looking very impressed, it will behoove you to have your party host walk up to that mother and say, "Hey, is everything okay?" Handling it in the moment will help you to not have to deal with it later. Because here's the thing. When you deal with chargebacks after the fact, after they've already happened, you are working with paper. You are working with things that are written down back and forth, submitting evidence documentation. And there is not human emotion that is involved in that process. It is very black and white. So if you have a situation where somebody calls and wants to book a reservation over the phone and they give you the information, but it's not correct, and you enter it in, and then you call them because something was wrong and it's corrected, and there's this back and forth, and it ends up in a chargeback, what the bank is going to see is what happened on the back end. The zip code was changed 3 times. The customer's name was entered in multiple times and then eventually changed to a different name. They're going to see that. And they're going to side with their customer if it looks like fraud in that example. So just be aware that it is important to deal with things in the moment. And then it is also so important and key that you document what is happening. Document if there was a problem, put it in the notes. If you're using Party Center software, go into that customer, into their party, add a note and write down what happened. If you have an explanation and things that you can use to back you up in the event that something happens, it's really going to help you out. But of course, if you're dealing with it in the moment, giving a discount or a coupon or something of that nature can help things a lot. If that mom is upset and you can tell she's not too happy with it, you know, "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Jones. I'm so sorry that the food was cold. Let me get you a new pizza." A pizza that costs you $5 is well worth the trouble of having to deal with a $400 chargeback, or giving them a game card or something like that just to keep them happy is going to be worth it in the long run. I promise you. Another tip that I want to just preface going into this, is with over the phone transactions. They are one of the biggest culprits for lost chargebacks because there's a lot of fraud involved with these types of situations. And you may have run into this yourself. Pay attention when you're on the phone and treat that phone call like it's a job interview. What is this person like? If you are hearing red flags in the situation and they're just shooting out everywhere, that things seem to be a little bit sketchy. And then you get to the card and it was put under the reservation Cassie. And now all of a sudden, oh, we need a card. Oh, hold on. Hey, honey, can you get a card? And it's in someone else's name. That could be a red flag. They could be trying to use someone else's card that they will then charge back after the party and potentially win if it's listed as fraud. So just be very cautious of these scenarios as you're thinking about what you want to do inside your facility. Of course, training your staff on how to spot that stuff, what to accept and what not to expect. Something that you can do instead, if you're a PCS customer, is instead of accepting that payment over the phone, email them a secure payment link. Say, okay, great. We'll get your deposit in. I'm going to send you a link right now. And you can shoot them via email a secure payment link that they're going to open up and they're going to pay. And it's just another layer of protection over you in these types of situations. So remember, you're selling incredible memories. And in order to sell that memory, they really have to have a perfect party and a perfect experience. You want them to have that great experience, but it's important for you to have a great experience too, and to have great people come into your facility that aren't there to, scam you or rip you off. Not that every situation is that, but we have seen that happen in quite a few cases. So we'll talk to you a little bit more about that. I'm going to give you some examples. Example number one, these are real examples that we're going to give you guys today. Call this one the $1,000 gift card. In this scenario, our customer received a chargeback in the amount of $1,000. Somebody had purchased $1,000 in gift cards online. And right after they purchased it, they got in the car to drive to the facility to pick up these gift cards. And on the way, they issued a chargeback. They requested a chargeback on their credit card for these gift cards that they just bought. They got to the facility and they picked up their $1,000 in gift cards. Now, of course, the recommendation here would be if you are that facility owner and you are aware that this is going on because we were in the loop that this was going on and said, hey, this is what's happening right now. They could cancel those gift cards on the back end and not allow them to be redeemed. So that is one example of something that happened. And the customer won that chargeback, by the way. They got their $1,000 back and they had $1,000 of gift cards in their hands. So just be aware that type of situation has happened. Another example is what we like to call the credit card swap. That is when a customer is upset. They agreed to a refund, but they got their refund put on a different credit card. We've heard this a couple of times where they said, that card doesn't work anymore. Mine was stolen. It was canceled. So put it back on this card. The money is put back on that card. And then what's happened? Now they win the chargeback on the original card and they've received a refund on the new card. Imagine if that was $250. Now you're out $500. So recommendation, do not refund on a different card. If the card was charged on the original card and they had a chargeback, put it back on that card. There is some precedent that if you are using that same card, even if you got a new card number, it will still go back to that same account. So just something to throw out there. Example number 3, we call this one furniture fail. There was a customer who was upset because a piece of furniture fell on their child. And they said, we didn't have a good time. We didn't get what we paid for. We paid for a good time and this piece of furniture fell. They requested that chargeback and they won it. And this is an example where I say handling things in the moment is so important. If in that scenario, that situation happened, this was something that was brought up at the time of the event. And if the party host, whoever was responsible for that party that day, that party host, or maybe it was the manager, could have said, hey, I'm so sorry that this happened. Let me give you guys some game cards, or let me give you a partial refund, or whatever it took to save that situation might save them the frustration down the road of potentially losing that entire party amount. So just another thing to remember as you're going and as you're thinking about chargebacks is to really be sure to train your staff on how to deal with potential customer situations or scenarios inside your facility. Some other observations that we've noticed, some trends that we've noticed about chargebacks in the industry, there tends to be a trend in metropolitan areas or the outskirts of metropolitan areas. They seem to be hit harder than others. More populated areas, of course, are seeing more chargebacks, which makes sense because there are more transactions. There are more people that are coming through. So naturally, that statistic is going to be a little bit higher. It doesn't necessarily mean it's in the cities, but we seem to see it in kind of these outskirts of larger cities. And the other thing is that people seem to be figuring out how to get away with these chargebacks, and they're telling other people about it. So it's important to be diligent in your facility about the fact that this is happening. So let's talk some stats. You're probably wondering what's normal, what's not. Maybe you've gotten one chargeback, maybe you've gotten 10, maybe you've gotten none. Maybe you're just trying to prepare in the event that you do have one. We have some statistics to kind of show you how this works and what it means. So here's the visual statistic. Of all of the PCPay transactions, so of Party Center Software's customers that have gone through our system, 0.00034% of transactions have resulted in a chargeback. It's not a very big number, but it is still frustrating. Doesn't mean it's not frustrating for the 0.0034% of chargebacks that have occurred. Let's break that down a little bit more. Only 1/5 of our entire customer base has received a chargeback. So 1 in 5 have even experienced a chargeback. So some facilities seem to have a great customer base where they have not received or had problems with these types of problems before, but some of them have. So just something to be aware of. Now, I also want to kind of just cite from the back end, while the total is 0.0034% for all, one of the higher numbers that we've seen from one facility is based on transactions. So the higher amount of transactions, the more likely you're going to be to have a chargeback. I'm sure that makes sense to you. But this is the number that really matters most. 1 in 4 chargebacks are won. So this means that 3 out of every 4 are lost. And there are some reasons why they're lost. And that's one of the reasons why we're talking on this webinar today, is because I want to help you to win these. I don't want you to lose a chargeback. I don't want you to have one in the first place, but if you do have one, I don't want you to lose it. And I'll share tips for you on how to avoid losing. But it is a very frustrating ratio to see. We have gone to the moon and back to figure out how to help our customers win chargebacks. And it is just one of those things that it's so sad that this is the statistic that is out there. So industry maximum for chargebacks, we talked about that 0.0034%. The industry maximum is 1%. So I'm going to show you how to calculate your own chargeback rate to see where you fall. But if you calculate your chargeback rate and it is 1% or higher, then we need to sit down and look at why. And there are some things that we can assess to try to figure out why that is happening and how to resolve that. So let's talk about that calculation. What you're going to do is take your total number of chargebacks per month, your total number of transactions per month, and that is your chargeback rate. So the example here is if you have 100 chargebacks a month, which would be a lot. I don't have customers that are getting 100 chargebacks a month, and there are 10,000 transactions, that would be a 1% chargeback rate. So what I'd like all of you to do is take that number and come up with your chargeback rate to see where you are. If you're under 1%, then you are falling within the industry standard. That is normal. That is completely average in the industry. If you are higher than that, again, let's talk and let's assess what is going on. Why is it happening? Perhaps there may be something fraudulent going on around your facility. We've seen that happen. This was actually pre-COVID, where somebody figured out at a facility, I don't remember which state it was in, but I believe it was a southern state. And they basically figured out they could go have a party, charge it back. They listed it a certain way. They won. They told their friends what they did. Their friends went and did the same thing. And they started this scam chargeback ring within this facility. And it was terrible. We had to really assess the data to say, when did this start? Who seemed to be the one to kind of start this? And that facility had to get really strict on how and who they allowed to book parties. So on average, we're not seeing obviously 100 chargebacks per month. A typical customer may see between 1 and 3 if they are impacted by chargebacks at all. But like I said, only a fifth of our customers at this point have even received a chargeback. So not everybody's getting them. There's no real science to it. It does seem to be related to area in some ways. Let's talk about chargeback reasons. We have here fraud or no authorization, cancel recurring billing, which is not likely to be something that is happening for you right now unless you enroll in memberships. That's if you've got Party Center software that's rolling out soon. It's exciting. Products or services, liability shift, these are just some of the most common reasons cited. There are actually over 151 different distinct reason codes among the 4 major credit card companies for a chargeback reason. And so basically what somebody is doing, we're going to get to a slide on that, but if someone is unhappy for whatever reason, or they've got the reason for issuing a chargeback, they're going to perhaps even just go on their app for their credit card and say, no, I do not approve. And it's asking them for a reason. They're going to select a reason. Fraud is it is the most common one that we see, where they'll mark it as fraud, and that could fall under perhaps the credit card was used by somebody that it shouldn't have been used by. They weren't authorized to use that transaction, etc. The flow looks like this. The customer has 120 days from the transaction to file a chargeback. So they could wait for a month, 2 months, or longer to file that chargeback. The money is then removed from your account the day that they file the chargeback. So it temporarily gets taken away from you while it's being assessed. And then once you start to fight, the money may be credited back to you temporarily, depending on the case. And then the final verdict, once it comes out, the money will go one way or the other. Now, I want to make a very distinct and clear point here. The person who is making the decision about a chargeback is the cardholder's bank. So if I am coming into your facility and I am charging something, I'm purchasing something at your facility, and then I decide to charge it back, it's my bank that is making the decision. And that's why it's so important to have the right evidence, because these banks are going to side with their customers. They want to make their customers happy. And if we don't have the right evidence to prove otherwise, they will side with their customers. Now, there also is something that's called arbitration. It is when a chargeback is lost. Sometimes their arbitration is provided as an additional opportunity. It is not the case for all chargebacks, but sometimes it is something that you as a business owner would be able to take advantage of. It can cost $500 to $1,000 to go to arbitration because there are other parties involved when you go to arbitration. It's taken outside of just that cardholder's bank for the decision. The thing with arbitration is you have to have new evidence. If you just submit the same evidence that you already submitted and lost, it is very unlikely that that evidence is going to help you win an arbitration. So there are certain rules within arbitration. Whoever loses in arbitration has to pay the fees. And again, that's between $500 and $1,000. So if you lose, and let's say it was a $500 chargeback, $500 in fees, now you're at $1,000. So if you're ever in this scenario and you're given the opportunity to go to arbitration, make sure that it's going to be worth it. Make sure, because it can be a big expense. And keep in mind, each credit card provider has different chargeback reason codes. They're not all going to be the same. They're going to be slightly different. They may fall under a similar category. Fraud falls under those similar categories, but there are many different ones. There's going to be a resource we're going to link towards the end of this that will tell you some of the most common ones that we come across by the different card brands. So hopefully that's helpful to you. But let's talk about how to prevent them, because we don't want to go through any of this. We don't want to have to deal with the chargeback, and we don't want to have to go to arbitration. Definitely. Be diligent. It's the first one. Be proactive and learn everything you can about chargebacks so you can avoid them. This is why you're here today, right? This is why you're on this webinar. I am so proud of you for joining and for being and watching this webinar to get educated on this. Keep going. This is a great place for us to start and to dive into, but read everything that you can about this topic. Again, we are going to have a link to our new resource that's all about it. It's very detailed. Araceli, who's amazing, is putting together some short videos that you'll have access to too. It'll be on social media. So be sure to dive into everything that you can and read everything that you can about chargebacks, because that's going to be the biggest thing to help you. Again, what are the reasons that you are getting chargebacks? Why are you getting them? They aren't all going to be scams. Some of them may be legitimate. If you can pinpoint what's going on or see that maybe there is a trend that's happening, it might help you to avoid them in the future. Is something upsetting your customers? Is there something that keeps recurring? Is there something that's misleading perhaps, or maybe there's not enough detail, or they feel whatever kind of way, just make sure that you're really assessing your process and procedures, your facility, every step of the way. Make sure your ship is tight and you will avoid those. And then of course, that middle bullet point there, make sure your policies are clear and make sure that guests understand them. Now, saying that you do not provide refunds for deposits that does not constitute a clear policy that's going to avoid you from losing a chargeback. Sometimes that happens. We actually had that happen recently where a customer made a deposit, never followed through, didn't attend the party, whatnot. And then because they marked that deposit as fraud, it helped them to win that chargeback. So just be aware that not every case is the same and evidence is going to be important. Some other ways to avoid chargebacks: be cautious about over-the-phone transactions. Make sure matching customer information is there. Use that secure payment link that I mentioned before. It's a very, very important part of this. It's critical that you're collecting as detailed information as you can, their full name, address, phone number, email address, all that kind of stuff. That's a good place to start to make sure that you're actually taking money from the person that says that they're taking money from. When it comes time for the customer to share the payment information over the phone, make sure it all matches. If it is a different name than the person you've been talking to this entire time over the phone, you can say, hey, I'm so sorry about our policy as we can only take credit cards from the person that we're speaking to, the person that is booking the party. And we're also going to need to see that when you come in for your party. It's okay to be tough. You're going to get folks that are going to appreciate you and want to have their parties with you. And if somebody is unwilling to play by your rules, they may not be a good customer for your business. Now, once the transaction has been completed for over the phone, it is so important to make sure that they have been sent a receipt to their email address immediately. Of course, if you're a PCS customer and you're doing this through PCS, it's going to be automatically sent. This receipt will appear in the customer's log history, their history log there. So in the event that you do have this, that will be a piece of evidence that you can use to show they made this purchase, this was sent to them on this date, etc. But of course, to avoid these issues altogether, like I mentioned earlier, use the Party Center software secure payment link, which basically means you're sending them a link to make that payment. And it's putting it on them versus you inputting their credit card information on your end. Now, just a note on voice or call recording, we have found something interesting. You cannot use voice recording in a chargeback dispute as evidence. However, you can use it if it escalates to arbitration. So just an interesting point of contrast here. That could be used as additional evidence if you need it, if it's escalated, but we don't want to get to that point. And honestly, it can be used against you too if due diligence isn't done. That was actually something that we experienced, was there was voice recording, and it actually made it sound worse for our client than to not submit it at all. So just be aware of that, something interesting. Over the phone or over the internet, you may want to require a low deposit to avoid this as well. If you've got a $50 deposit, someone is less likely to try to get their money back, or if they haven't really committed to coming to the party and let's say that your deposit's $300 or $400, they're going to try to charge that back. If it's $50, you may or may not have that problem. But of course, you can always AVS match as well. You can require that to make sure that you can also require their address to match their credit card to avoid some potential fraud situations. And you may want to ask for that same credit card in person and to see their ID as well. In person, of course, use your EMV. That's going to help make that transaction more secure. And again, ask for ID. That is an important piece in this. So if you can make that choice to make sure you're using AVS and the CVV, both activated at your checkout point. Of course, you can do that in PCS, or I'm sure whatever software you're using. AVS is address verification system. It's going to check the billing address. I do want to warn you, sometimes this can frustrate people because it'll kick them back because they're not entering the right address, or they're trying to guess things. If somebody mistypes their address, it may not match. But I'll tell you, I have to put my correct billing address when I'm purchasing things online all the time, and I'm using the correct information. So I'm going to do it, right? That's another way that you can try to avoid some of these scenarios, is make sure you have CVV and AVS activated. Now, of course, does the name match the credit card when they come in? You've got their ID. Does it look like the same person? Does it look like a fake ID? Does the address match? This is going to help you out a lot. And I know that it sounds like a pain and it's frustrating, but if you are currently going through a lot of chargebacks, or you're having this happen quite a bit, start taking these IDs, make a copy, use them as evidence when you submit, and see how that changes your results. Fighting chargebacks, how to fight. Be prepared to provide evidence needed to win the case, and how far are you willing to go. Something I want to really note here is you need to send all of your evidence in one email, one packet. So if you get an issuing chargeback notification from our team, it will say, here's the situation, here's the code that they cited, name information. You can go into Party Center software. You're going to pull all of the data that you need, and we give you suggestions on what it is that you should pull. And of course, our resource gives very detailed directions as well, and as well as our help center gives specific directions on what it is that you should pull. Put that all in a packet. And hey, if it's a big number, if you're looking at a couple $100, $500, $1,000, think of this as if you would approach this in a court of law. Make a cover page that explains your side of the story. This will help you to win. If you just throw a couple of documents in an email, attach two things and shoot it off, you may or may not be putting in your due diligence to show them, this is my business. I care about it. I'm protecting it. I know everything that's going on here. Bing, bang. Here is my evidence. But the very first thing that you should do before you do anything is call your customer and see if you can work it out. Sometimes errors happen, mistakes happen. Sometimes people just are upset for not no reason, but they're just upset. And all they needed really was a phone call to see if you can work it out. Call them, see if you can get that chargeback reversed. Of course, don't issue any refunds or anything like that during that process, but definitely call your customer to see if you can work it out first. Again, collect all your evidence, combine it into one PDF with notations. This is going to help you out so much. You have to submit it prior to the deadline. They give us tight deadlines, and there is absolutely nothing that we can do about it. We don't get a grace period. We don't get we don't get to make any decisions. All we can do is try our best to fight for you by making sure we're submitting that evidence, telling, guiding through the process of here's what you should submit. They won't consider it after that deadline. So make sure you get it in. And of course, make sure, to decide if you want to fight it or not. Some transactions, like I mentioned, you may want to just drop it. You don't want to even fight it. If it's $20, you may just want to move on. Potential evidence might include party order, payment history, detailed payment information, activity log, order receipt, agreement to non-refundable deposits, and so forth. Again, the more clear your process is, the more documented it is, the more it will help you when it comes to fighting it. And I don't want to discourage you from fighting certain situations that I may have mentioned that somebody may have lost, because you never know. Sometimes the second time around, when you add notations and you add that cover page to explain the scenario, that may help you to do better on the next one. So use every single one as a learning opportunity for the next one. All right. That was a lot to cover in this webinar. I'm going to open up. I've been going. I see some things in the chat. But now is the time. If you have questions, please throw them into the Q&A. And let me know what questions you guys have about chargebacks. I would like to know if there's anything you would like me to cover that wasn't covered. A couple other things while we're waiting for some questions to come in would be, just be sure to not refund anybody during the process. There was a situation where someone was refunded in cash. That's another little important point. If someone's upset and their original payment was a credit card, don't refund them in cash, because then they can go back and request a chargeback on their original amount. And now if they win, they're getting that money back and you've given them cash. So that's another little tip. Trying to think of some other things that I could just throw at you guys to help you out. Explaining in your own words, the situation from your perspective, keeping it factual is going to help you out so much. I'll give you an example of this while we're waiting. Customer booked party online on 5/2/22. They paid a deposit in the amount of $50 on the card ending in 1234. On the day of the party, the customer paid the remaining balance of $525 using the same card ending in 1234 in the EMV chip reader. We have a copy of that customer's ID attached. And then you include all of this evidence: the customer's deposit receipt, the transaction log with the customer, the day of receipt, the copy of the ID, all of that. You might even consider using a highlight tool on your computer to highlight critical details. Just remember, the person that is reviewing and deciding if you win or lose, they don't know anything about you. They don't know anything about your facility or policies. They are doing a job, and their job is, look at this evidence. Does it look like this person should get the money or this person should get it? And they're stamp and move on. And they're always going to work for their customer first. Okay. So just remember that. You only have this one opportunity to fight that chargeback. So make sure your evidence is compelling. But I'm going to tell you, make sure you don't have to get into the situation if you can. I know it's not always possible,
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have any feedback or have any topics you'd like us to discuss, please be sure to email marketing@partycentersoftware.com. This podcast is a weekly podcast, so you can expect new episodes every Thursday. Party Center Speaks is powered by Party Center Software. We are a facility management tool that helps family entertainment centers and event venues book more parties and manage their facilities. We also offer marketing services such as custom website design and marketing automations to help you expand your reach and grow traffic. If you'd like to know more about us, head over to partycentersoftware.com and be sure to give us a follow at Party Center Software on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, TikTok, and at Party Center Soft on Twitter. Until next time, thanks for listening.